Let's say you have a real passion for photography and you're thinking about starting a business, but you're really not quite sure what to do, how to get started. So let me just give you some opinions, my ideas, and what I'm up to now. Since pretty much I came full circle, starting my business actually back in the late 60s, photographing some weddings while I was in the service. After I got out, my wife and I had a small apartment. So we started my business basically in our apartment. And then after a year, we got a house, and then another house, and then we built a house which had a studio built into our home with a separate entrance, and that worked out really nice. And then after several more years, I moved into a commercial studio space, and I rented that. And then later on, I sold that business, and I moved back into the home. And now that I'm semi-retired, my wife and I are living in a nice apartment community area, and I'm still doing occasional jobs, working this time out of our apartment complex. So let me just share with you some ideas on maybe how to get started. So first of all, when you do get started, you want to make sure you don't go in over your head. And I would recommend start frugal. I would also recommend starting part-time. Unless you have a trust fund, if you have a big trust fund, this probably doesn't apply to you. And if you have a full-time job, I would say stick with that full-time job and start your business part-time. Next, I would recommend that you get a good accountant. A good accountant can really, really help you, not only in saving you on possibly income tax payments, but he may be able to give you some good financial advice and then help you that way as well. But the accountant I had was really good in helping me and my business. Then you're going to need to get the proper paperwork and licenses that you might need to run the business. And then you're going to have to collect sales tax. So for that, you would just contact your state. Just go online and search for your Department of Revenue Services or check with your accountant. They'll probably tell you which way to go. And also, in addition to an accountant, if you have any major questions, you might want to spend maybe an hour or two with a good attorney, and they might be able to help you that way too. And the other thing I would really recommend that you really do, and to me this helped me so much, I always believed in education, not just going to a community college type thing. And I took a lot of workshops and seminars by professional photographers who were actually doing it. So they're actually walking the talk. And this helped me quite a bit. I would see if your state has a professional photography organization, and if you can, I would join that. I would also recommend you join it's called a PPA, Professional Photographers of America. And they offer what is called an indemnification insurance policy that's included with your dues, with your membership dues. So what that is, it's going to offer you some protection. Say you're at a wedding and somehow you lose all the files or something happens to you and you're involved in a lawsuit. Well, they're going to help you out with this. So contact them and see what their current policy is regarding that. I would also recommend the Wedding and Portrait Photographers International, called the WPPI. They have a great convention that's just fantastic. Speakers come in from all over the world, all over the country, and you can learn so much just by going and seeing these people. One thing that's important, of course, you have to know the business of photography, and then you also have to be a pretty good photographer if you're going to sell your services. But in addition to being a good photographer, you have to be a great business person. So that's why I recommend starting part-time, just frugal, part-time. Stay small until you bring in enough money that you can support yourself with your photography, and then you can leave your full-time job. Or if your spouse has a great professional, is making good money, then it might not be quite as important to you if you have a job. So as long as somebody in your family, either your spouse or mate, somebody is bringing in some money to help you out. But But I really wouldn't recommend just going right out there and leasing a commercial space. That's really going to be a tough situation for you, especially if you're just getting started. I don't want to sound like a downer, but I just want you to be cautious so you don't lose your shirt. I've known some really great, outstanding photographers that had to close their doors because they just couldn't make it in business any longer. Just had too much overhead. And I know of some that had a home studio and then they expanded out to a commercial space as well. But the expenses just got to be too much and eventually they had to go out of business. So just be very cautious that way. I also want to start with a disclaimer. Since I'm not an attorney, I cannot give you legal advice, nor am I an accountant or a financial advisor. So please use your own due diligence and be very cautious. Start out on a smaller scale and don't overextend yourself. Try to stay away from debt if you can. I think it's also important when somebody starts really any kind of a business, but to build a good, solid foundation, meaning that you're the one that people want to go to because they trust you and they know you're honest and reputable and capable of doing the job. So that means being honest with your clients and just do the best job you can. And if you do that, you're going to get so much repeat and referral business. And that's really an important part of getting started. You know, so many companies actually spend so much money in trying to attract new people, but imagine if they would just only give a little bit more effort in trying to please and trying to keep the people, the customers that they already have. Sometimes some of these businesses seem to forget about the customers they already do have. So keep that in mind. That's very, very important. Buy low and sell high. Well, you've heard that before, mostly in the stock market, but it's also true for any business. You want to make sure that when you price your product, you make a profit that's large enough to cover not just the profit, but you have to keep in mind your equipment and your other costs. So I keep saying start off small, just be cautious. So I'm just want to show you my current situation. Since a little over a year ago, we moved from our home into an apartment complex. So I just want to share with you how I'm operating a small photography business. Since I don't have my home studio anymore, this is the room that I'm using now for doing things like a business portrait, small family portraits, and I'll do all my sales consultations here. And I'll also meet with potential clients ahead of time to discuss, for instance, their family portraits. I'll advise them on different location, and we'll do a clothing consultation, the whole bit. And usually business portraits, I'll just book them either over the phone or through email, and then we'll set that appointment up right away. And then after I'm done with the business portrait, we just make their selections that they want, and they'll have those very, very quickly. As you can see, this room right now is actually set up for doing a business portrait headshot. And this is a large room. Usually there's just a couple people that might come along, but if there's larger groups, that's no problem. We have a lot of room here. Now this room is available for use as long as it's not reserved. And for just maybe like small things like a pickup, if they're going to be coming in to pick up their prints and so on, I won't even reserve it. I'll use this room, or there's a business center as well, so I can use either one. However, or if I know that I have a portrait schedule or I want to do a family portrait consultation or sales consultation, I'll just reserve this room. I'll just pay the $25 and then I'll have this room for all day. So it's really a good deal. And as you can see, it's quite large. And it does have a really nice view here of the pool area and a nice garden section out here when you're looking out the windows. Now, this coffee table here that I'm showing with all my items on there, this is pretty much what's in that little travel case when I arrive. However, I don't put everything on this table at one time. I just put everything on here to show you. So if I'm doing the sales consultation, I'll just use my computer with an external speaker so I get some decent sound out of it. I used to use a projector, and that worked out really well because if you want to sell large prints, projection is the way to go. Every time I do a sales consultation, I'll bring along some 24 by 30 canvas prints framed, and I'll also bring along some display 24 or rather 20 by 24 prints. And this way, they'll see the size of the prints and we'll discuss sizes, and I'm able to show them what the size actually looks like. So if you want to sell large prints, people still do buy large prints, you have to show them. So by showing them, it's fairly simple to sell, especially if you can project. So if you have the means to do that, by all means, I'd recommend getting a projector, and it may pay for itself in possibly the first sale. A great sales and advertising tool is your Apple iPad. A lot of times I'll take this with me when I'm going out, just in case I run into somebody who needs some photographs taken. And on here, when I do my consultations, I'll have some samples, some portrait sample locations on here, and we'll even have a design wedding album on here so people can see how their album is going to look. So right now, this is pretty much my setup. Like I mentioned, we downsized, and I'm pretty happy with our situation here. Just remember to stay frugal and to build a solid foundation. And that solid foundation is going to help you stay in business for many, many years. And it's going to have the same people coming back to you and also referring you for other business. So that's pretty much it. And I hope this helped you somewhat. And thank you for watching.